In the massive wave of construction consolidation happening right now, are you a buyer, a seller, or a target?
That really is the ultimate question right now, isn't it?
It is, because if you haven't decided yet, the market might just decide for you.
Yeah.
Welcome to this deep dive from the Scaling Legends podcast.
Glad to be here. This is such a critical topic to get into.
Yeah, absolutely. Today, our mission is to really unpack the absolute surge in construction industry mergers and acquisitions that we are seeing take place in 2026.
And it is a surge. The pace is it's unlike anything we've seen in decades.
Right. And to make sense of this shifting landscape, we're looking at a stack of incredibly timely sources today. We have the PwC 2026 Engineering and Construction Deals Outlook, the February 2026 M&A update from Capstone Partners, and some extensive market intelligence detailing the exact intersection of construction and technology.
It's a perfect stack of material because the industry is going through a literal seismic shift. It's reshaping how mid-sized contractors operate on a fundamental day-to-day level.
And I want to set the tone for this deep dive right out of the gate. If you are listening to this in your truck on the way to a site right now, and you aren't actively trying to sell your business today or even thinking about buying a competitor, you might think, this doesn't apply to me.
Which is a dangerous trap to fall into.
Exactly. Understanding this acquire for scale playbook is vital. If you are trying to survive, let alone thrive, in a rapidly shifting industry, you need to know what the biggest players are doing and why.
Yeah, you really have to understand the board you're playing on.
So let's unpack this. We have this perfect storm driving consolidation right now. What are the macro forces pushing these companies to merge rather than just grow organically like they used to?
Well, there are twin macro-level pressures really squeezing the industry right now. And the first is severe tariff-driven margin compression.
Okay, break that down for us.
So we are looking at a landscape where raw materials are increasingly expensive and supply chains are just constantly shifting. Think about it. If you are a mid-sized contractor and the cost of structural steel or, say, specialized electrical components spikes out of nowhere due to a new tariff,
your estimators are basically forced to bake massive contingencies into their bids, right?
Exactly. They have to protect themselves. But when you do that, your bid is suddenly way too high, and you lose the project to a much larger competitor who has the balance sheet to just absorb that margin hit.
Wow, yeah. So they just weather the storm while you get priced out.
Right. And the second pressure is the persistent labor shortage across the trades.
I mean, I hear about the labor shortage constantly. Every owner talks about it. But how does that specifically drive mergers and acquisitions?
It drives M&A because you can't easily hire your way out of a massive backlog anymore.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, in the past, if you won a huge contract, you could just scale up your workforce over a couple of months. You put the word out and guys show up. Today, those skilled tradespeople simply aren't sitting on the bench waiting for a call.
They're already working for someone else.
Exactly. So growing through acquisition is no longer just a luxury for the massive conglomerates. For a lot of mid-sized contractors, it has become a pure survival strategy.
So you acquire a competitor just to achieve the necessary scale to negotiate better material pricing.
Yes. And crucially, you acquire an intact, functioning workforce overnight.
That makes the acquisition strategy sound a lot more like a supply chain and human resources hack than a traditional financial play.
That's a great way to put it. You are literally buying their crews and their vendor relationships just to keep your own engine running.
And according to the Capstone Partners update we have here, specific niches are generating the most heat. They mentioned companies serving AI-fueled data centers and power infrastructure targets. Those are generating outsized acquisition interest.
The sheer scale of those mega projects is what's really fascinating there. I mean, an AI data center is not a standard commercial build.
No, not at all.
We are talking about an immense structural footprint, highly specialized liquid cooling systems, and a massive, massive power draw that requires its own dedicated substation.
Just astronomical bonding requirements, I imagine.
Exactly. The bonding requirements and the risk profiles for these facilities are off the charts. A regional mid-sized contractor simply cannot take on a multi-billion-dollar AI infrastructure project alone. They don't have the balance sheet to bond it.
So they absolutely need the scale of a merger just to get a seat at the bidding table.
They do.
But wait, let me play devil's advocate here for a second. Why can't a regional guy just partner up?
What do you mean?
Like, why not just form a joint venture with another mid-sized firm? You pool your bonding capacity, you tackle the data center project together, and you avoid the permanence of a full-blown acquisition.
It's a fair question, and joint ventures absolutely happen, but they carry intense execution risk, especially on these hyper-fast AI timelines.
Because of the culture clash.
Yes. When you form a joint venture, you instantly have two different company cultures. You have two different safety protocols, two different project management software systems clashing on day one of the build.
And the tech giants funding these data centers probably don't want to deal with that friction.
They hate it. They want a single throat to choke. They want a unified, vertically integrated entity that controls the entire critical path of the project.
Oh, that makes total sense.
Yeah, that is why buyers are swooping in to acquire these regional experts outright. They want to bring that capability under one permanent, unified roof so they can pitch a seamless operation to the client.
That structural shift is massive. But there is also a deeply human element driving these sales right now. And if we look at Smart Business Automator's market intelligence report, over 50% of construction business owners are over the age of 55.
Which is huge.
It is. And even more surprisingly, only 54% of them actually have a succession plan in place.
That is a staggering demographic reality for the industry.
Right. Half the industry's ownership is nearing retirement age, and nearly half of them have no clear plan for who actually takes over the reins.
When you look at those numbers, an acquisition wave is mathematically inevitable. Somebody has to buy these firms.
And you can see it happening in the search data, right?
Absolutely. You can see it playing out in real time. Google Trends has been reflecting a really sharp rise in the search term construction business for sale.
Wow.
And it is rising right alongside construction business consulting. Owners are waking up. They're looking at the sheer complexity of the modern market with all these mega projects and tariffs and realizing they need an exit strategy right now.
So let's look at the mechanics of how this plays out in the real world, because there are some truly massive scale plays happening right now. For example, the PwC Deals Outlook highlights Quikrete Holdings' $11.5 billion acquisition of Summit Materials.
That deal is a masterclass in creating a vertically integrated construction materials powerhouse.
$11.5 billion. That is just a wild number.
It is. But when you operate at that scale, acquiring a company like Summit Materials means you are controlling the entire life cycle of your product.
From the ground up.
Literally. You own the aggregate quarries, you own the cement kilns, you own the logistics network, and then you own the final packaged concrete product that goes to the site.
Break down the bidding math on that for the listener. How does that level of vertical integration actually help them outcompete the rest of the market on a Tuesday morning bid?
It all comes down to external shocks. If you don't control your supply chain, you are entirely at the mercy of volatile spot market material prices.
Right.
So if you are bidding on a 3-year highway mega project and you have to guess what cement will cost in year 3 of that project, you have to bid high to protect yourself. You build in a massive buffer.
But Quikrete doesn't have to do that anymore.
Exactly. Because Quikrete now controls the aggregate and the cement, they know their exact internal cost. They are completely insulated from those external supply chain shocks.
So they can just undercut everyone.
That insulation allows them to submit highly aggressive, highly accurate bids that a non-integrated competitor simply cannot match without risking bankruptcy.
Okay, I definitely see the value in an $11 billion monopoly play. But let me challenge the premise of the mid-market deals for a moment.
Sure.
Isn't buying a mid-sized contractor essentially just buying someone else's messy operations and headaches? I mean, how do these mega buyers actually avoid catching a falling knife when they acquire a regional player?
That is the ultimate friction point in M&A. And it's exactly why smart buyers don't just buy top-line revenue, they buy targeted strategic capabilities.
Give me an example of that.
Let's contrast that giant Quikrete deal with a much more focused capability play. Look at Sabre Power Services. They're a Greenbelt Capital portfolio company. They recently acquired Bounds Construction too.
Okay, and why did they target them specifically?
They didn't do it just to inflate their overall revenue before an IPO or something. They specifically wanted Bounds Foundation construction capabilities.
Because Sabre works in power infrastructure.
Exactly. Sabre works in high-voltage power infrastructure. And you simply cannot build a modern substation without highly specialized, deep foundation work.
So why not just hire a great foundation manager and build that division organically? Buy some rigs and start doing it in-house.
Because of the time and the massive execution risk involved. Building a specialized foundation division from scratch takes years.
You have to buy the specialized rigs.
You buy the rigs, you hire the niche operators, you build out all new safety protocols, and most importantly, you have to establish a track record before these massive utility clients will ever trust you.
And Sabre just bypassed all of that.
Completely bypassed it. They recognized a gap in their service offering and bought a company that already does it perfectly.
So if we synthesize what buyers are actually executing right now out in the field, what did that playbook look like?
There are three main strategies in the buyer's playbook right now. First is geographic expansion. That's simply buying a firm to open up a new regional market instantly without starting from zero.
Okay, that makes sense.
Second is trade diversification. That is exactly like the Sabre Power example, buying a niche capability that they previously lacked so they can keep more work in-house.
And the third?
The third is technology capability acquisition. This is buying a firm because their internal tech stack and their proprietary data management actually gives the buyer a competitive edge they can then scale across their entire portfolio.
That brings up a really great point. How do you, as an owner listening to this, know if what you know is actually what these buyers want right now?
You really have to understand your position in the ecosystem. And according to Smart Business Automator's Market Intelligence Report, you can track exactly which market segments have the strongest acquisition interest at any given moment.
That is incredibly valuable intel.
It is. It helps owners understand whether their specific niche is currently considered hot or cold by the capital market.
So what's an example of a cold market versus a hot market?
Well, for instance, if you specialize in commercial tenant improvements in urban office buildings right now, your market temperature might be quite cool. Buyers aren't scrambling for that.
Sure, because of remote work and commercial real estate vacancies.
Exactly. But if you specialize in electrical trenching for data centers, you are an absolute premium target. Buyers will be knocking down your door. You have to know where you stand before you ever sit down at the negotiating table.
And timing that negotiation is everything right now, because there is a literal ticking clock on owner transitions coming up.
Yes, the 2026 tax changes.
Exactly. In 2026, the estate tax exemption increases to $15 million for individuals and $30 million for married couples.
That is a massive legislative shift.
It is. And if you plan to pass your life's work to your kids, or eventually sell and transfer that wealth, this deadline is fundamentally shaping your family's financial future.
Right. To look at it purely from an impartial financial planning perspective, this creates a highly specific tax-advantaged window for owners to exit.
How so? Walk us through the math on that.
Well, when the exemption is at these historic highs, an owner can transfer a significantly larger portion of the wealth tied up in their business to their family without facing heavy estate taxes.
Okay.
So if you are a 62-year-old owner and you are already thinking about selling in the next, say, 3 to 5 years anyway, this 2026 tax window makes a very compelling mathematical case to accelerate those plans.
You sell now before the exemption potentially sunsets and drops way back down.
Exactly. You lock in those tax savings while they exist.
But the reality is that selling a construction business is brutal. It is not like selling a house. The median time on the market for a construction business right now is 207 days.
7 months. Just think about what happens in a mid-sized construction firm over 207 days.
It's an eternity.
It is a massive amount of time for leadership to be completely distracted from daily operations. Because due diligence isn't just handing over a few tax returns and shaking hands.
Not at all.
It is answering 400 incredibly detailed, granular questions from a private equity firm's lawyers.
Right. They want to see everything.
They want you hunting down historical project margins from 3 years ago. They are verifying employee classifications. They are making you justify your equipment depreciation schedules.
And while the owner is doing all that, who is running the company?
Exactly the problem. When an owner is spending half their week locked in due diligence meetings, they are not out winning bids. They are not out managing tricky commercial builds or solving problems on site.
So the business actually suffers.
The distraction cost alone can actually devalue the business while it is in the process of being sold.
Which perfectly brings us to how these businesses are actually valued by buyers. Because everyone in the industry loves to throw around the phrase EBITDA multiple.
Oh, they love it. It's the favorite buzzword at every trade show.
Let's define that simply so we're all on the same page. Everyone talks about their EBITDA multiple, which is essentially how many years of your current cash profit a buyer is willing to pay you up front.
Right. You always hear guys saying, I'm holding out for a 5x or a 6x multiple.
But what is the reality there?
The harsh reality is that a high EBITDA multiple is completely meaningless if the business cannot run without the founder.
Wow.
This is the hardest pill for many brilliant, incredibly hardworking owners to swallow. You might have absolutely incredible earnings on paper,
Right.
but if you are the chief estimator, the lead project manager, and you are the only person who holds the cell phone numbers for your top 3 clients, you don't actually have a business to sell.
You just have a very high-paying job.
Exactly. You have a job that ends the minute you retire.
I love how you frame that. It really shifts the entire perspective on what you're building. Because if we look at Smart Business Automator's market intelligence report, the true valuation drivers that buyers actually care about are transferability, recurring revenue, and backlog quality.
And out of those, transferability is the absolute key.
Explain transferability for us.
Think of it like trying to sell a Michelin star restaurant where the head chef refuses to write down a single recipe.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Right. If the chef leaves, the buyer isn't purchasing a world-class restaurant. They are just purchasing some really expensive ovens and empty tables.
Because the magic just walked out the door.
Precisely. Buyers in construction are paying for the assurance that the machine will keep printing money after the founder hands over the keys and walks away.
So if everything is in the owner's head, the value drops.
If all the operational knowledge, how you did, how you manage your tricky subs, how you solve specific field issues, if that is trapped in the owner's head, transferability is 0.
And if transferability is 0,
the valuation plummets completely, regardless of what your trailing 12 months of top-line revenue looks like.
Okay, so if I'm an owner listening to this, I can't just clone myself.
Yeah.
How are companies actually digitizing this transferability before they go to market? How do you practically get the knowledge out of your head and into the company's DNA?
You have to connect your operations directly to technology. Buyers today are actively hunting for tech-enabled operations.
What does that look like in practice?
They want systems where workflows are standardized. They want a company where project history is instantly searchable by anyone. And they want environments where the health of a project is visible on a digital dashboard, not just based on a gut feeling the owner has after walking the job site.
Because that removes the founder bottleneck.
Entirely. When a company leverages the right tech, the business can scale without the owner working 100 hours a week.
I really want to dig into how a company actually executes that. Because earlier we mentioned the intersection of construction and tech in our sources. Let's look at the capabilities of Smart Business Automator.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Because this platform seems custom built to solve that exact admin drowning problem and create pure transferability. Take document and data control, for example.
It's usually a nightmare.
Total nightmare. On a typical site, finding the right version of a drawing or an approved submittal involves hunting through endless, nested digital folders. Or worse, physical binders.
And that hunting wastes literally thousands of billable hours a year across a company.
Exactly. So what builds transferability is a system that automatically tags, sorts, and categorizes your photos, your plans, your permits, RFIs, and submittals.
But the real differentiator with Smart Business Automator is that it actually extracts vital details from those specs and drawings automatically.
Right, and it allows teams to search across all project data using natural language.
Which is huge. You don't have to remember specific file paths or naming conventions. You just ask the system for the structural steel submittal for the 3rd floor, and it provides it instantly.
That means a brand new project engineer can find critical data just as fast as a 30-year veteran owner.
Exactly. That is transferability in action.
Now let's talk about the field to office gap.
Yeah.
Because translating what happened on the dusty job site to the office is usually a disaster of messy text messages and coffee-stained field reports.
Oh, it's where so much margin is lost. Miscommunication.
Right. The platform tackles this communication and field alignment by turning long field reports and messy project meetings into clear, concise summaries. And it actually assigns action items to specific people.
This is exactly what private equity buyers are looking for when they evaluate your operations. They want accountability built into the system.
And it goes further. The platform even generates draft RFI responses using historical project context.
That feature alone is wild. When your RFI responses are being drafted based on the historical context of the company's past projects, The intelligence of the firm is finally living in the software.
It's not just locked in a senior project manager's memory anymore.
Right. That is the definition of removing the Michelin star chef from the kitchen and putting the recipe in the book.
And from a risk and financial management perspective, it directly protects the margin. We all know how change orders can completely derail a timeline.
A single bad change order can wipe out the profit of an entire phase.
Yep. So the platform runs a change order impact analysis. Instead of an owner just guessing or using a gut feeling on how a change order will delay the schedule, the system evaluates how changes affect execution across the board.
It proactively detects schedule risks and bottlenecks before they explode into actual delays.
Which is vital.
It is vital because when you are trying to scale, whether you are preparing for a massive sale or you just want to dominate your local market, your executives are trying to manage 10 or 20 jobs at once.
You can't be in the weeds on all of them.
You can't. So the oversight and integrations here are game-changing. The platform conducts compliance and spec checking automatically. It generates automated internal and executive reports.
And it integrates seamlessly via API with existing enterprise resource planning systems, accounting software, and the field tools your crews are already used to.
Right, you aren't throwing away the tools that work, you're just making them smarter.
You can even build custom AI workflows, like automatically routing critical documents to specific engineers, or triggering an alert on your phone when a budget threshold is hit. It essentially acts as an AI project assistant across all your active jobs.
So if we step back and look at the operational so what of all this?
Yeah, what's the bottom line?
The bottom line is these capabilities allow project managers to handle significantly more jobs without getting buried in administrative paperwork.
It frees them up to actually manage the construction.
Exactly. They get back to building and nurturing client relationships. And for the owner or a potential buyer conducting that grueling due diligence we talked about, it gives leadership crystal clear visibility into project health and margins across the board in real time.
You aren't waiting for a month-end reconciliation to know if a project is bleeding cash.
You know today. And a business with that level of visibility commands a premium valuation on the open market, period.
We have covered a massive amount of ground today. Let's bring it all home. What does this all mean for you, the listener?
It's a lot to process.
It is, but the core takeaway is this. The 2026 construction M&A wave isn't something that is coming soon. It is already here, and it is accelerating fast.
Really fast.
Driven by supply chain tariffs, labor shortages, demographic shifts, and the explosion of massive tech infrastructure projects, the landscape is consolidating right under our feet.
Yeah, the ground is shifting.
So whether you plan to buy a competitor, sell your life's work, or remain a fiercely independent operator, understanding this competitive context is the only way to survive. You have to make decisions based on hard data and market reality, rather than just relying on gut feeling.
I will leave you with a final provocative thought to consider as you look at this consolidating landscape.
Let's hear it.
We've talked a lot today about private equity firms and giant construction conglomerates buying up mid-sized contractors.
Right.
But what happens if the tech giants themselves, the Amazons, the Googles, the Microsofts, get so frustrated by construction delays and the limited pool of contractors who can actually build their data centers that they decide to eliminate the middleman entirely?
Oh, wow.
If consolidation is inevitable across the industry, what happens to the mid-sized contractor who tries to just wait it out? In a market where your competitors are suddenly backed by billion-dollar conglomerates, the biggest risk might not be buying a competitor or selling your firm.
It might be choosing to stay exactly the same.
Exactly. In a few years, the biggest threat to your independence might be a trillion-dollar tech company deciding to buy up regional contractors directly to build their own proprietary infrastructure empire.
Now, that is a sobering thought to leave on. The rules of the game are definitely changing.
They absolutely are.
Well, if you enjoyed this deep dive and found value in unpacking the 2026 M&A landscape with us, please subscribe to the Scaling Legends podcast on your preferred platform.
It really makes a difference.
It does. Leave us a rate and review, and be sure to share this conversation with colleagues, your leadership team, or anyone in the industry who needs to hear this reality check.
Send it to your network.
And finally, if you want to explore the technology we discussed today and see how it builds true operational transferability and scale for your business, visit smartbusinessautomator.com to learn more.
Thanks for listening, and we will see you on the next deep dive.